So what's up with the violent crime rate?
Among the 72% of police agencies reporting to the FBI, murder down 26% nationwide compared to a year ago. Rape down 25%. Robbery down 17%. The city breakout in Chicago year-to-date, murders down 16%. D.C. down 24%. San Francisco down 38%. Philadelphia down 41%.
And the trend continues in Connecticut as well, according to a recent article in Capital Dispatch. According to the National Incident Reporting System, which collects real-time crime data from local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, Bridgeport, Stamford, New Haven, Hartford, and Waterbury all saw significantly less violent crime in 2024, and some types of other crimes too than they did compared to 2023. Connecticut has also consistently ranked as one of the top 3 or 4 safest states in America when comparing violent crimes per capita to other states. Good news, right? Not if you ask Republicans.
Thanks for joining us right now. First up at 5:30, lawmakers under pressure to do something more about crime.
And Republicans are now putting forth their second proposal, while Democrats say this is a scare tactic and Connecticut is still one of the safest states.
So is crime dropping and signaling we're doing something right? Or are Republicans misrepresenting crime data to scare people, and then often objective media just lacks the ability or interest in calling Republicans out for bad faith, opportunistic, tough on crime arguments? I mean, you probably already know where I'm headed with this.
What's important to realize is for those people advocating tough on crime, there's an implicit assumption they have that it works, that being tough will be tough on crime. But when you actually look at the data and the evidence, what you often find is that these approaches are superficially tough, and they're certainly tough on people and on communities, but they actually don't do a whole lot to lower crime rates. And in fact, many of the tough approaches end up increasing the risk of crime.
That was Rachel Barco, a professor at NYU Law, and she pretty much, and any other respected expert on the subject, has concluded that the tough on crime laws are a facade that don't reduce crime or serve as a reliable deterrent to criminal activity. The National Institute of Justice, a body of the U.S. Department of Justice, reported out that the severity and length of punishment is a less effective deterrent than the certainty of being caught. Police can deter crime by increasing the perception that criminals will get caught. A prison sentence for every person convicted of a crime is not effective at deterring crime. Rather, people who go to prison may learn more effective crime strategies while they're in prison. That doesn't stop Republicans from passing laws that will be tough on crime, and what do you know? They don't work. According to the Third Way organization, a public policy think tank, red states have seen violent crime rise over the past 20 years. The murder rate in Trump voting states from 2020 exceeded the murder rate in 2020 Biden voting states every year since the year 2000, and the overall murder rates since 2000 were on average 23% higher in Trump voting states. For the past 21 years, the top 10 murder rate states have all been dominated by red states like Louisiana, Alabama, Missouri, and so forth. Even when they removed the county with the largest city in Trump voting states and kept them in for the Biden voting states, murder rates were still significantly higher in Republican states. So tough on crime as a policy strategy is nothing short of catastrophic, but as a comm strategy?
You know, there's a pretty steady drumbeat of criminal justice stories on the local news that doesn't really adjust to what's happening in terms of crime rates. So there's always a huge chunk of any local newscast devoted to crimes. And that's true whether the overall crime rate is rising or falling. And so one thing that does is create an appearance that crime is always on the rise. And if you look at polling of the public does think crime is always on the rise, even when it's falling.
So we have a two-pronged issue right now that creates a less discerning public that's constantly in fear of violent crime. And that's not to say that people shouldn't prioritize personal safety or safety of their family. However, prioritizing a problem requires you to actually understand that problem and the root causes of that problem, and the extent to which it impacts your lives, your life, and the lives of people that you love. Then find solutions that are appropriate to the scale of that problem. So when the crime rate for violent crimes drops and people still think it's going up, that's a bad thing. When they're met with the data and they still think it's going up, we're kind of screwed. An October Gallup poll asking Americans to categorize whether they believe crime is up and how serious of an issue crime is was 64%. And the disparity between Republicans and Democrats was extremely high at 90%. Republicans compared to 29% of Democrats in the most recent poll, believing that there's more crime than there is. And according to the Pew Research Center, roughly 3/4 of adults say they often or sometimes get local news and information about crime. That's more than they say about traffic, government, politics, arts, culture, the economy, schools, and sports. Regardless, this is a massive failure. Not just politicians, usually Republicans, who grift the public with scare tactics, but also a media that provides news without the context of how frequent that type of news is actually taking place. As if there's no correlation to constantly showing similar stories, and your viewers then thinking those types of stories happen as often as you show them. And also, there's an elephant in the room that I can't leave out.
And the other thing we get from media coverage is very racialized. You know, the media tends to cover a lot of interracial crime, even though most crime is intra-racial.
Some of the laws that were put in place for a number of years resulted in mass incarceration of African Americans, Latinos, and there's all too many states where the budget for prison construction is going up and the budget for school construction is flat.
And that also ends up feeding into various stereotypes and prejudices among the public when it's thinking about crime policy.
And the strategy of blowing that trusty dog whistle to scare the crap out of people is as American as apple pie. Richard Nixon's domestic policy advisor revealed in a 1994 interview that the war on drugs was just a racially motivated strategy. He said, "We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or blacks, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing them both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night in the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did." So the violent crime rate in major cities across the country and in Connecticut is down, and that's good. Still, to downplay the real impact of being victimized by any type of crime is in no way my goal. These stories are important and should be taken seriously, which is why when media sensationalizes people's pain to keep you from changing the channel or scrolling on your phone, it's wrong. When Republicans, let's just call a spade, lie to you, then push often racist, discriminatory policies, it's wrong. And not for nothing. When the person you're proudly displaying on your bumper stickers and flags and every other kind of paraphernalia has a mugshot, you've kind of lost your seat at the table to talk about crime.
Breaking news. We got a convicted felon for a president before GTA 6. Also, here's Henry with new state senator Paul Honig.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I am awestruck being in this room with everyone here.
When I started on staff back in 2019, you just kind of like learn things as you go. Some things people will tell you, some things you just kind of got to figure out for yourself. Have you had those like almost like a welcome to the state senate moment? Have you had that moment yet?
Yeah, I've had a couple of them. Just totally not understanding, you know, the procedures that I guess the unwritten rules.
Yeah. They should write them down.
They should write them down. Yeah, I invited someone to come to a screening, and they weren't kind of the appropriate people to come to a screening. So you know, that kind of thing. But you know, people are understanding. They know I'm new here and show a little grace. So last election, I knocked on 7,000 doors. Okay. Almost exclusively on my mountain bike.
Got it.
This election, I put an electric motor on my mountain bike, and I'm doing my door knocking almost exclusively on the bike, which, you know, it's a great way to get around. It beats walking. I don't like pulling up with my car into people's driveways.
Question, serious hard-hitting journalism question I had to ask that I've always wondered. Do you have to use the license plate with the number on it? Like when you get the license plate that says like 8, like do you have to use that thing on your car?
I don't think you do.
Because I would frame it. Did you get one?
I put in the application for it. Haven't received it yet.
Okay.
So I've gotten different advice on it. Like some people say, don't put it on your car. I do, like every time I walk into my office, someone else has their license plate like in the top window of their office.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So yeah, I'll probably put it on my car.
Yeah.
This has been a district that since its inception in the 1960s has been a reliable Republican district, the whole time. I'll be the first Democrat to represent this district. Very proud of that.
When session's over, we get to June 4th, what needs to happen for you to be able to look back on this session and say, that was a good one. I felt like I did what people sent me up here to do.
When I was out talking to voters throughout the district during the campaign, I think one of the themes was affordability. A lot of people are struggling with the high price of things here in Connecticut. So I think to the extent that we can do some things to improve affordability, whether it be cost of housing, cost of health care, cost of electricity, cost of child care, I think that'll be a big barometer of whether this was a successful session or not.
And when session's over, obviously you'll have a little bit of time to yourself. What does, not Senator Paul Honig, but what does Paul like to do in his free time?
I'm a big fan of kind of recreational athletics.
Okay.
Over the course of my life, I've played a lot of volleyball, softball, tennis. Lately, my thing is roller hockey. So I play on a couple of adult recreational roller hockey teams. Just played last night, have another game tonight.
Nice.
So I really enjoy that. I love the team aspect of it, the camaraderie, the exercise. Rollerblading is pretty low impact exercise for an old guy like me. So
what position do you play?
I play forward. We play 4-on-4, so 2 forwards, 2 defensemen, and goalie. So I'm up top. My backwards skating skills aren't the best in the world, so they keep me going forward.
Exactly.
So,
how many goals have you scored?
Oh, goodness, I don't even know. I have had a couple of hat tricks.
Nice.
I was just talking to a friend of mine at the rink last night about a hat trick that I had a few years ago against one of the best goalies in the building there, which was quite a rarity.
That's awesome. The comms director is also a hockey player.
Yeah, I spoke to Kevin about it.
Yeah, I think he's a defender. I don't know if or maybe he's a forward.
I think he plays defense. Yeah.
Check him.
Too old for that stuff.
To all my newfound colleagues here in the circle, I look forward to working with each and every one of you doing the important work that we do here in the chamber. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much for your time, Senator, and good luck the rest of the way, the rest of the session, and again, thank you for coming by.
All righty.
Thanks for watching the pod. We're going to run a pickup roller hockey game with the senator, and then we'll be back next week. See you then.